I used to work at Argos in the commercial development team, and my job was to work with trading directors to identify new opportunities, new lines of business and new products. Unlike some of the other organisations I work with, due to it being a retail company, there are actually quite a large number of women in director roles. And what was impressive about these women was their ability to navigate challenging situations and hold their own. What they all had in common was the ability to be assertive and allow them to navigate challenges and solve problems. This assertiveness went through to their ability to hold negotiations and get the outcomes that they needed. Prior to working at Argos, I'd always sought to avoid confrontation in work situations. However, with them as role models, I was able to learn some tips that I'm going to share with you about how to be more assertive at work. But first, what is assertiveness? Thankfully, it's the opposite of passive-aggressive, which is one of the most destructive cultures you can have at work. Mastering assertiveness will also stop you being viewed as too aggressive in the workplace, which ultimately can hold you back in your career and stop you building really effective relationships. Being assertive allows you to master the power of your own goals, but ultimately not get too upset or have your ego hurt if your solution isn't the one that's adopted. I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek and his book, The Infinite Game. In his book, he sets out the benefit of playing for the long or infinite game. I'm going to do a separate video on the book because I think it's a really good one. But the whole point is, in finite games like football or chess, it's really clear who the players are, what the rules of the game are, and what the outcome is. That's when aggression comes in. However, in infinite games like business or life, players come and go, the rules change, and there's no clear finishing line. There are no winners or losers in the infinite game, but only those that get left behind. And so that's why being assertive rather than aggressive is a useful tool to have. Think lose the battle, win the war. By becoming more assertive at work, it's allowed me to approach challenging situations in a different way and think about the best outcome in the long run. I'm going to talk you through 3 different scenarios where it may be helpful to adopt an assertive rather than aggressive or passive approach. The first thing, which is often really difficult for all of us, is to talk to your boss about getting a pay rise. You're in your annual review and you ask your boss for a pay rise. However, he explains to you that due to the pandemic, that's not going to be possible. A passive approach would be just to play down your disappointment, not really mention it and thank them anyway. An aggressive approach is to have a knee-jerk reaction and tell your boss that you're going to look for another job elsewhere, which I've had some people do to me. It comes across as unprofessional, but also you may not be realising that your boss's hands may be tied to a certain extent and they don't have the authority just to hand out pay rises left, right and centre. The assertive approach that you could adopt, which would be probably better in the long run, is to say that you understand that the company's position at the moment, but you want to make sure that your goals are aligned to the company's as you move forward. Ask about developments in your team and agree with your manager outcomes, goals or metrics which will help you move forward and achieve a pay rise in the future. This approach allows you to be proactive in managing your own career, but also show that you have resilience and be pragmatic to the needs of the company. What you then need to do is have regular catch-up meetings with your manager about the goals and metrics that you agreed at your original meeting to see how you're progressing. If after a few months this doesn't happen, then perhaps it's time for you to start searching for another role or discuss with your manager opportunities for growth or movement within the team. The other thing you might be able to do is negotiate different benefits for you which aren't monetary related. So it may be the opportunity to study, work more flexibly or to shorten your hours. Your boss might have more freedom to allow you to do that rather than just handing out a pay rise. Your boss may not have the freedom just to give you a pay rise, but he may have flexibility to give you other perks or benefits that you're looking for. That allows you to get the recognition you deserve for the role and the work that you do, but also work with the company in a time of difficulty. The second area where you can adopt an assertive approach is when you're trying to land an idea in a business meeting. Your team is developing a new project and you've got a really good idea that you want to put forward. In a passive approach, you will wait to be called upon, and then if your boss doesn't turn to you, then you don't mention your idea and you leave the meeting not having said anything. Or you allow your boss to put their idea on the table first and then don't contribute your own thoughts or feelings. An aggressive approach would be to launch straight into presenting your idea or to not take into account the feedback or views of others when you're discussing it. If anyone tries to suggest alternatives or make comments, you just roll your eyes and say that won't work. All the while you're trying to pretend that you don't notice the eye rolls that are happening around you or people trying to object to your views. This is unhelpful in the long run because people don't view you as a team player and ultimately assume that you have an arrogant attitude. An assertive approach is to work with your colleagues to identify the best solution. You can listen to the various suggestions that people are making and acknowledge the strong points that they're making and build those into a future solution. You might say, for example, it's a great idea to track those metrics. Let's absolutely build that into the project plan. By doing this, you've not only stated your case, but you've also acknowledged the strengths of others and brought their views onto play. You've successfully contributed to the conversation, but you've also made your colleagues feel valued and their input recognised. Ultimately, that's a more successful outcome for everyone in the long run. The final situation where it may be useful to adopt an assertive approach is when you're dealing with underperforming team members. You might have someone working with you who either misses their deadlines, rolls in late every day, or just generally their work is too sloppy. It's impacting the rest of the team and their delivery, and you need to do something about it. A passive approach would be for you to not say anything to him and then just do the work yourself to bring it up to standard, and then later bitch and moan to your colleagues about his poor performance and how that's impacted upon you. An aggressive approach would be go full out, devil wears Prada on him and dress him down either in front of the team or privately. That's going to be unproductive in the short term, as it will probably just get his back up and be aggressive in approach. The assertive approach would be to set a private meeting with him and explain to him why his behaviour is falling short of the standards and what he needs to do to overcome that. You can agree with him an action plan about the areas he has to improve, some timeframes, and then set some future meetings to hold him to account. Use your emotional intelligence and empathy and use it as an opportunity to seek from him if there are any factors outside of work or anything that's impacting on his performance that you may not know about. Even if that's not the driver, he will appreciate that you've taken the time to ask the question and shown your empathy, and that you're not just bothered about his at-work performance. It also sets to him what the standards are and expectations are going forward. What you've done in the final option is taken control of the situation and help steer for a better outcome. Mastering the art of being assertive for work helps you to set healthy boundaries and ultimately help manage your stress. You're more confident with others, able to get what you want easier, but also able to manage negative impacts in the team. Like anything else, it's a skill that you need to build, and it will take time, but each time you do it, it will become easier to do it in the next situation. Another thing you can do is look out in your network or in your team and see if there's anyone who's particularly good at this. You can model their behaviours, see what they do, and learn from their experiences. Let me know in the comments below if you've struggled being assertive at work, or if you have done it and how that's worked out for you. I post twice a week, so please subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified of when I get new content out there, and I'd love to hear from you. I'm Liz, and here on my channel we give you the tips, tricks and hacks to help you navigate your career.